Welcome to the WP-Tonic This Week in WordPress and SaaS podcast, where Jonathan Denwood interviews the leading experts in WordPress, e-learning, and online marketing to help WordPress professionals launch their own SaaS.
Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic This Week in WordPress and SaaS. This is episode 888. Got a fantastic guest. We're going to be talking about all things AI, content, and much more. We got Dustin, Stout, founder of Magai, with us. It should be a great show. We're going to be, like I say, delving deep in the world of AI and content. Dustin is an expert on this, and he's got a startup around providing services in the AI area. So, Dustin, would you like to give us a quick 20-30 second intro about yourself?
Sure. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been self-employed, working for myself, grinding it out for the last probably closer to 14 years now. Started as a side hustle, building WordPress sites for clients and teaching businesses how to use social media for marketing. And that quickly turned into a full-time business for me, consulting, and learned SEO, because if you're building websites and attempting to drive traffic through social media, naturally you want to find other channels, not just pursue one channel. And SEO was obviously the biggest show in town as far as driving free traffic. So I learned everything I could about SEO, everything I could about social media marketing. And as I was building websites for clients, my whole goal was to build them a site that actually gets traffic from multiple different marketing channels. So did that for about 12 years. And found very quickly that I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and scaling a service-based business as a perfectionist is very difficult to do, because I'm the kind of guy who will spend an hour and a half trying to decide how round should the button be, and have we optimized this page enough for Google's latest algorithm. So I moved to creating digital products. I love working with clients, but I found that I can put my perfectionism to good use in creating a product that helps many people at once, and I can focus on making it as good as possible. So that's where I'm at today. Founded Magai back in late March, seeing where the AI industry was going and seeing how great ChatGPT was, but how many shortcomings it had. And I sought out to improve that for businesses.
Oh, that's fantastic. Should be a great show. Before we go into the meat and potatoes of the show, I've got a couple of messages from our major sponsors. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
Tired of hosting providers that can't handle high traffic loads? Conversio is here to help. Our platform can handle any amount of traffic, all without slowdown or crashing. With immediate Slack support, performance optimization, and a team that thrives on resolving technical challenges, your e-commerce business is in safe hands. Learn more about Conversio at conversio.com.
Are you looking for ways to make your content more engaging? Sensei LMS by Automatic is the original WordPress solution for creating and selling online courses. Sensei's new interactive blocks can be added to any WordPress page or post. For example, interactive videos let you pause videos and display quizzes, lead generation forms, surveys, and more. For a 20% off discount for the tribe, just use the code WP-Tonic, all one word, when checking out, and give Sensei a try today.
We're coming back, folks. I want to point out we got a new sponsor, and he's going to be with us for about a month. It's Omisend. Omisend is a SMS service plugin. Had a great following in the Shopify area, but is building a great solution in the WooCommerce space. We've got a great special offer. We've got 3 months with 30% off. You can find that and other great offers and a curated list of the best plugins by going over to wp-tonic.com/deals, wp-tonic.com/deals, and you'll find OmniSend's new offer, and some other great offers from our other great sponsors. Thank you, OmniSend, for supporting the show. It's much appreciated. So let's go right into it, Dustin. So what do you think Magai solves? What made you decide that you're going the world of SaaS products? You know, you look quite relaxed, but I'm sure trying to build a SaaS product will change that quite rapidly based on my own experience.
Yeah. I'm a bit relaxed. Maybe it's the allergy medication. My allergies have been yesterday here in Bakersfield. I live in Southern California. I looked out the window at one point and it looked like I was in the movie Dune. There was just dust blowing everywhere and it looked bad outside them. So my sinuses have not been having a great couple of days, but it does make for a much better podcast voice, if I do say so myself. Right. But why SaaS? Well, like I said, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. My first soft venture into digital products was actually a WordPress plugin. And that's where I discovered that, building digital products is much better for my, how I'm built, because I can really perfect one thing and help many people. And so once I got started on that, it was like, I'd like to get rid of these clients so that I can help thousands and millions of people instead of, one or two people at a time. But when ChatGPT first came out, I had been kind of searching for my next product to build. Came off the tail end of a couple failed digital products after leaving my WordPress plugin company back in 2020. Had some other ideas. They didn't pan out. Long story short, lost a lot of money and was at a really low point in my career as an entrepreneur. Really dark place. And I was just kind of looking. I was like, I feel like I had a season of drought creatively and entrepreneurially. And I was like, what is that next thing that I can really bring to the world and help, the people that I've set out to help, which are typically the creators. They are the content creators. They are the consultants, the coaches, the builders out there who are creating things in the world. How can I help other creators? And then ChatGPT came around, and I had been working with AI for years now with AI copywriting tools, and they always sort of fell short for me. They were all predicated on these templates, and you kind of had to fit your ideas into somebody else's templates. And then the stress of having to pick a template from 1,000 different templates to get the right AI output was just daunting. And I think that's why it never really hit mass market. But when ChatGPT hit the scene, it was it's not just lowering the barrier of entry. There is no barrier of entry. You don't have to search through 1,000 templates. You just talk to the AI, tell it what you want, and it gives it to you. It was magic to me. And that's kind of where the name Magai came from. It was magical. But, instantly as an entrepreneur, I start using a thing and I start to find all the friction points. I'm like, oh, why doesn't it do this? Why doesn't it have that? I wish I could do this other thing. And those things just started piling up as I was using ChatGPT prolifically, both personally and for businesses and for some clients that I started taking on at the time. And so, simple things like search and filter. Why can't I just search my old chats and find them? The ones that I made a week ago. There's no search and filter function inside ChatGPT. Why can't I put things into folders? I would love to do that. Why can't I do that with ChatGPT? Why can't I just give it a URL and it goes to that specific URL and scrape the page? Why can't I feed it a YouTube video and have it just know to pull the YouTube transcript? So all these things started piling up, and I was like, you know what? I know how to build, and I have no other products that are successful right now. So this might be the next thing, the next problem I can solve. I can make ChatGPT better. And from there, I just continue to listen to my users, listen to the market and see, what are the things the market needs and how can I solve those problems and make this completely revolutionary mode of using AI. How can I make it easier, more accessible, and more productive for professionals like me?
So what are some of the key features that you have got the best response from the user base so far that you like the most?
Yeah, so people really love the ability to search and filter. They made a chat last week and they're trying to remember, what it was or where it was, and they can just easily in Magai search and filter. People love staying organized. So in Magai, we have the ability to have separate brands or workspaces where you can kind of separate clients. And so it's not all one giant list of content you've created. You can actually separate them out and have some degree of organization. They love being able to put things into folders, create their own folders and kind of stay organized that way. And then a huge feature, which OpenAI just basically copied from Magai, is the ability to have personas. Now, personas are the magic of getting AI to actually produce content that sounds like you, that aligns with your values, that aligns with your brand. And essentially what a persona is just giving the AI a personality or giving it a specific set of instructions on how it should behave in the conversation. So best example is I want it to write in my voice. And Magai gives you the ability to create a persona based on your own voice and have the AI write in a way that it seems like it came right out of your own head. And we also have a bunch of pre-made personas, things like expert copywriter or marketing expert or social media manager, whatever goal you have, it's always best to sort of assign the AI a role and tell it specifically what you want. And so what that does is it makes it so that the AI isn't pulling from its huge swath of generalized knowledge. You're giving it a very laser focused field to pull from, and you get much better results when you do it that way. So that has been probably the most successful feature for our users. And now OpenAI just recently announced that they've got these things called GPTs and allows you to do exactly that.
Well, I thought you'd probably be delving this because you were probably well aware of this when you entered this market. Obviously, you were always. I'd be interested in how you dealt with this mentally, working out your business model, because it was obvious that there's always a good chance you're going to be Sherlocked.
Yeah.
And all the people that are building. I was listening to another from Professor G, his podcast, and he was actually talking about this, people building products on OpenAI and being Sherlocked. So you're probably quite aware of that risk. So
actually, in my eyes, it's not a risk. And here's why.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm interested to get your insights about this, how you mentally work this out yourself.
Yeah. So the problem culturally with us right now is everything's a subscription, right? And you've got 50 different streaming service subscriptions, and you've got a subscription to your favorite shaving tools. You got a subscription to your favorite steak. I don't know. People have all kinds of subscriptions. Your favorite coffee. It's a subscription service. So this subscription fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah.
And in the world of AI, ChatGPT is not the only game in town, not by a long shot. In fact, it has its closest competitor. ChatGPT is still trying to catch up in many respects to it. It's called Anthropic, the company, and they have an AI model called Claude, which is extremely sophisticated, may not be as creative in terms of artistic language that it might come up with, but it's extremely capable. And so what you are having in the marketplace is not just, one AI company that's doing all the innovative things. You're having a lot of them pop up. So Google has their own AI that's popping up. Meta is creating their own AI chatbot. And then you have, of course, all the other types of AI, the generative image AI. You got things like Midjourney, DALL-E. You have Stable Diffusion, and all these companies out there trying to create the best image generator, right? So what Magai's ultimate goal is to save people from having to subscribe to all of them. Because inside of Magai, our users get access to ChatGPT, GPT-4. They also get access to Claude. They also get access to Google's Palm Bison model. They also get access to Meta's Llama model. They also get access to Stable Diffusion and DALL-E 3 and Midjourney and the image generators. So it's not just us building a wrapper over OpenAI. It is us saying, look, you're going to want to use and leverage all of these AI things. And it's great to have them all in one subscription, in one unified interface, so you don't have to relearn how to use every single one. And it's also great to be able to use it in a team environment, which Magai also has plans for teams, and you can invite people in. So every time OpenAI makes an update, or Claude makes an update, or any of these AI companies make an update, all that does is increase the value of the product that we've built, because it gives people access to all of the AI models in one unified place.
Yeah, I love it, because I suffer from wrong term. I have dyslexia, so I've always listened to audio books and video and podcasting, but it's helped enormously with all my, it's one of the reasons why I got into tech and web design and development, because I've always been very artistic. And it's just been fantastic, this new technology. It's helped so much, and it's saved me a lot of time, and I love it. On to the next question. What do you think Google's attitude towards content that's produced by AI? They seem to, as always, be giving contradictory statements to some extent. Obviously, they're using machine learning in their own looking at websites and reducing the need for link signals. That's pretty obvious. They've been using this for quite a while. And they're in a tricky position, because if they destroy search, they destroy the major money center for the whole business. Right. So they're in a very, very tricky spot. So, but what's their general attitude? Because I've been updating content, writing new content, utilizing my writer team. Some of the content I write through AI, Google seems to love. Others, it doesn't seem to index at all. It's all over the place. But I found a much more recently, over the past 6 months, a much more volatile situation around content anyway. About it seems to be all over the place. So there's about 6 questions in one there, Dustin. So choose whatever. Let's start with how Google's looking at AI, what content generated content. What do you think the way they're viewing it?
I think it's a really fascinating conversation, right? Because Google's in this really existential crisis right now. Yeah. A lot of people are trying to treat AI chatbots like a Google search, which, by the way, don't do that. It's not great at surfacing accurate information. Claude actually is much better at surfacing accurate information, but GPT, some of the other models, they tend to make stuff up. So don't use it like a Google search. But I think in terms of how Google is looking at AI generated content on websites, I too have connections inside of Google, and I have spoken with engineers, and they will often tell you different things. Just
I think it's done on purpose myself, actually.
Yeah, well, it's some of it's on purpose. Some of it is just literally like people are working in different departments.
Well, some of their I do this hopefully because I'm English. I like my quick one-liners. Well, I think some of their engineers think it's alive already, don't they? So that's a problem, isn't it?
Yeah, but in terms of content on websites, here is where I stand on this. Google cannot detect AI content, period. If you're
you mean all that money I've been giving to these AI recognition tools, all the money that I was wasting my money, Dustin?
You are. I will go on record and say these tools that say, the AI content detection, not very good. You can put in literature, you can put in stuff that you've handwritten, and it might get it accurate once, and then the next time get it completely wrong. What they're looking for are specific patterns, and these patterns with more modern AI models, especially with GPT-4 and with Claude 2, and with even this last week's update to GPT-4, it's undetectable. especially if you put a persona behind it. If you give it some degree of direction on how to write, it's going to completely fool any AI detection thing out there.
I think you're spot on there, because I spend a lot of time researching the topic, and I give it a lot of guidance.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it just allows me to write better stuff. It's a tool. It just helps me so much and my team write better stuff. But these people that say, oh, there's certain tools out there and we're not going to name them because it's not right and I don't want to get sued. That, you know, you can put in a load of titles and it'll churn 100 articles out and sign up for this course and we'll make you a 7-figure fortune churning out. I don't think you're going to, in my opinion, I don't think you're going to get very far very quick.
No, those things have been around longer than AI, and they never work. And there are lots of technical reasons why they don't work. But I would say, yeah, absolutely don't. AI is really good with iterative approaches. It is its strength is in short bursts of content. If you're using it, and this is one of the things I've taught all of my users in hundreds of conversations, do not give it a simple prompt to have it write 2,000 words. That will result in very poor, low quality content. And it's just the nature of where AI is at this given time. The more that it has to write at once, the more sort of low quality it gets. It deteriorates over the longer period of having to write. So if instead you kind of prompt it iteratively, one at a time, one section, one paragraph at a time, it focuses all its energy, all its intelligence on that short burst, you get a lot better quality out of it. And you can iterate as you go, making it smarter and smarter as the content that you're building goes, instead of, you know, wasting it all in one go. I have an entire blog post about this, but suffice to say, you know, short bursts of content, not huge bits of content. And that's why I think what you'll get is a lot of these websites saying, oh, you know, I wrote this article with AI and Google didn't even rank it. Well, you probably had it run a ton of low quality content at once instead of really constructing the content.
Well, I actually do read it and I edit it and I get other people to edit it and we add things to it and we get it to rewrite it. And I normally add videos that I produce, podcasts, charts, external, you know, I try and knock up something that's got some value. I think a lot of people don't do that, do they?
No, they don't. No, they want an easy button. They want to say, write me a 2,000 word article about dog grooming. And then they hit the button and they just want to copy and paste the article. And that's why I think, you know, you're getting a lot of sites and a lot of, you know, experts out there saying, oh, Google detects AI. This article didn't rank and my whole site was affected. Well, you put out crap, you know, but I think also at the same time, I think Google is rapidly, like I said, they're in an existential crisis. They have to figure out how to sort of balance their algorithm to take on this new challenge of swaths of AI generated content. So I think to some degree, they're iterating to kind of improve their quality controls. So ultimately, Google's job is to surface the highest quality results, right? That's their goal. That's how they make their money, by surfacing the best content for people's queries. So I think at times, in order to do that and to maybe fight against the AI generated content, they might be overcorrecting in some instances. So I think what we'll see over the next 6 to 12 months is, you know, sort of an up and down volatility that we haven't seen in Google for a while, because they're trying to just figure it out. And they haven't figured it out yet, as far as I can see.
It's just me. You're much more of an expert on it. I've had to become an expert because I run a business, and one of them, I do business to business outreach, and then I have business to consumer, and I use content marketing as the main vector that I utilize. And I've invested a lot of writers' time, There's over 300 to 400 articles on the WP-Tonic. I do podcasts, 2 podcasts, 3 podcasts a week, plus videos. You know, it's a machine, and it's only 3 of us in the team.
That's amazing.
Producing a lot of content, right?
Yeah.
But there's the main contradiction. You know, Google wants to see signals. They come to your website, they see that they get the information that somebody doesn't go to another website.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, when I'm searching, even if I get, because there's different levels of searching. I'm just basing it on mine. There's factual information. You do a search to find a fact. But then there's deeper search where you're trying to find out the right questions to ask because you don't know the subject.
Right.
You're trying to find out the search parameters that you need to know to make decent searches. Is that making sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you do when you know about a subject, you want to refresh yourself, because you know you have to deal with especially you run your own business, you're juggling so many balls that you know you can't keep up with everything, especially tech, because it changes so quick. So you're refreshing. That's other type of search. And then there's influencers, or terrible term, but we have to use it. But there's people that you respect their content. You get the feeling that they're at a higher stage than you, and you get the feeling that they do know what they're talking about. So you read this stuff because you hope some of their brilliance rubs off on you because you're just a normal guy or woman.
Right.
Is this, mate? Am I on the right track? So there's all types of searches.
Yeah. And the term that marketers have used for a long time now is intent. You know, we have different intents. And I think over the years, Google's gotten really good at sort of categorizing or determining the intent of a query. And that's why, you know, you have things like, you know, if you search for, you know, the term coffee shop, like it knows that your intent is to find a local coffee shop near you, not necessarily to, you know, find an online coffee shop where you buy coffee. It's not necessarily, you know, I'm looking to franchise a coffee shop. Like it figures out the intent, and it's usually pretty good because it has a lot of data to determine the intent. And so whether that intent is research oriented or whether it's fact oriented, they've tended to do pretty well with guessing the intent of the user's query. And so you're spot on there. There are different modalities of, you know, what you might be searching for, and I think Google's gotten really good at that.
And the other thing is, I won't name them because they've come after me a couple of times, threatening to sue me. So I call them the Chocolate Factory. You won't know what I'm talking about, but there's a couple very large WordPress focused websites that utilize Far Eastern content churning farms to knock out really crap content. The most awful, but they regularly dominate because they swamped and they use black hat SEO to, and but Google's just allowed them. It seems that Google's attitude seems to be all over the place. There's some really awful websites that have great domain authority, that their content is just awful, but Google just religiously puts them on the top of a lot of WordPress search terms. What's that about? You got the insight? Because I think that you see that in a lot of sectors, don't you? Some really crappy that you use, and there's this snobby attitude towards AI. But they were using content mill farms in the Far East anyway for years. So what's the difference?
Yeah. So, you know, I think the Google search algorithm is so complex and so nuanced. And some people have just gotten really good at gaming it, and because it's a big business. And some people just have a ton of money to just throw into all of that. And I think it's just a matter of like, so quality, for one, is subjective in many cases, right? So somebody might read, and this happens all the time when I speak to or not when I speak, when I attend other people's talks on AI. I might be sitting there as the expert going, ooh, that's pretty terrible advice. But the people there don't know. They don't know better. They're new to it. And so, like, I think to your case,
you're saying you're intuitively spot on, because a lot of this content is aimed at the newbie in WordPress.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen that, coming up in the WordPress space, I've seen, all of these.
I think you know who I'm talking about.
I think anyway. I do. Yeah. So I've seen a lot of these sites where they cater towards the beginner. And I think because they're beginners, they don't know, how good or bad the advice is. They're just looking for an answer to their query, right? And so Google's job is just to surface the result that seems like most people like. And when you have a lot of cash you can throw at marketing and content distribution, and you can throw a lot of cash at backlinks and doing all of the SEO things, you tend to get up there in the search results, and people are lazy. So they may not spend the time to click down to the 5th and 6th thing. So if you can get up there in the first 3 results, and you can get people to stay on the page for a long time, Google looks at those signals, like how long do visitors stay? Are they coming in and out of different results? If they stay on one result or one link that they've clicked on, they stay there for a while and they don't come back to the search, Google sees that as a huge signal, as that was the right result. That was the right search result to give
for
them.
Understandable reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a lot of the quality issues that we might see as experts or as highly experienced people in that field, the beginners, the content that is meant for the people who don't know what we know, they might not know enough to know that's not very good content. And so, we're in this place of like, we know too much, and therefore, it's almost sometimes hard to get past the our own knowledge of, we know too much, and therefore, maybe we're not as resourced as these other companies that aren't spending time on the highest quality content. They're able to churn it out faster and distribute it more quickly and stay at the top of those results because they're doing enough to get there and they're able to stay there. And I think it's much harder for them to knock them down when they've done all of that distribution and attracted all those beginner traffic.
Yeah, I think thanks for that. You put that so succinctly. Fantastic. I'm not being sarcastic here. I thought you did a fantastic job there, actually. You clarified it in my own mind because it does puzzling, but I think it's understandable in Google's eyes, really, isn't it?
Yeah, they're in a hard spot because they can't sit there and, the algorithm isn't perfect. It's not perfect and it can't analyze from an expert standpoint. Is this content is it good advice? Is it accurate advice? Is it deep advice? It does that to a degree, but its biggest signal is user behavior.
Does Black Hat link farm still work to some extent?
Oh, I don't know. I want to say no, but I don't. Because
what's said behind the scenes is this guy's built a whole link farm in the Far East, and that's how he.
I have to think that to some degree, link farms and backlink gaming and buying still works because I will log into my email every single day. And it never fails. There
never ends, does it?
5 new emails saying we'd like to do a link.
I never replied to any of them, but it must work. It must work. Somebody must be replied to these.
Right. And my email app has this fun little feature where when I hit Command B, it blocks that person from ever emailing me again. So,
please don't do that to me. I'll be nice to you so far. Right, I think it's time. I think we've had a good chat, actually. You controlled. I've got a very wandering mind. I think it's around my dyslexia, really. That one of those questions was in 6 parts, wasn't it? But I think you handled it. Sometimes I get guessed, and it just looks like me, like I'm on some drug or something. But you dealt with it.
It keeps things interesting.
Oh, very, very tactful. I can tell you're an extremely tactful person. I'm not. I can be when I want to be. Right, All right, let's go for our break. It's been a great discussion. I've really enjoyed the chat. We will be back in a few moments, folks.
This podcast episode is brought to you by Lifter LMS, the leading learning management system solution for WordPress. If you or your client are creating any kind of online course, training-based membership website, or any type of e-learning project, Lifter LMS is the most secure, stable, well-supported solution on the market. Go to lifterlms.com and save 20% at checkout with coupon code podcast20. That's podcast20. Enjoy the rest of your show.
We're coming back, folks. Just want to point out, don't forget about our new sponsor, HomerSend. It's a really cool plugin to send text messaging, especially if you're around WooCommerce. Let's face it, WooCommerce needs some text messaging. No, it needs a good solution, and this looks quite good, actually. So go and have a look at it. I'll make sure it's in the show notes and go to the deals page, and all the details will be there. I'll also want to point out, if you really want to support the show, why don't you become a WP-Tonic partner? We've got some fantastic affiliate deals, and you really be showing your support to the show. If you're building a learning management system, a membership site, or a Buddy Boss site, we're great hosting partners. So go over to WP-Tonic/partners, WP-Tonic/partners, and become a partner. We love you to become part of the tribe, and you'll be showing your support for independent media. So we go on our journey. So what do you think? I think you touched upon it in the first part of the show, Dustin. But where I'm asking the impossible question, really, but they never stopped me. Where do you think we're going to be at the end of 2004 when it comes to AI? Have you got any? Can you rub that crystal ball and just look into it and just give us any feelings that you think we might be at the end of next year?
Yeah, so I think there are several advancements that are happening in AI that are going to come to pass within a year or so, maybe 2 to 3 years. So one of the things that I am simultaneously a fan of and not a fan of are prompt engineering, and this idea that you have to kind of find the right combination.
It's all in the prompts, baby. You can achieve everything with the right prompt.
Right. I think where AI is going, and where it ultimately has to go if it's going to continue to move forward, is it's going to be easier to just simply converse with the AI in simple terms and not have to do all this prompt engineering. And there are those who would disagree with me, but I think with the iterations that OpenAI in particular has been making in this past week alone, they're showing us that they are actively trying to help people with prompting by just getting better at being intuitive and understanding the intent, kind of like Google, understanding the intent behind the query. And what it does is it kind of rewrites the prompt on the back end. And you'll see this if anybody's used the OpenAI DALL-E 3 integration, creating images inside the chat. It will, in effect, rewrite your prompt in better ways. And so I think over the next year, we'll start to see prompt engineering becomes a thing of the past. You won't hear much about it anymore. And people will number one, people will learn that all I have to do is just be articulate, like just articulate what I want.
Well, I've got a slight problem, and
I think you'll be fine. But
not my listeners tell me I've got a problem there.
But yeah, so on top of that, like I think the AI will just get better. They'll get better at understanding what we want, and we won't have to do all this prompt engineering because it'll do it for us behind the scenes. In terms of SEO, I don't think Google will get its act together in the next year, just historically. I don't think they've done things quickly.
They made so much money, though, gobs of money, just
Yeah.
gobs, and they're a funny old. Just you don't know what to make of them, really. Do I suppose when you get some of the most of your companies filled with PhDs, but if you've ever worked with a university, you realise because you got a load of PhDs doesn't mean any sense is spoken, though, do you?
Yeah, no, and actually, a lot of universities are starting to use Magai because it's way easier to give their students access to all of the AIs with one subscription. Working with the University of Notre Dame recently, and they're doing generative AI. They're actually teaching a class on prompt engineering, which, again, I'm a fan of, but I'm not a fan of. I think it's helpful for this current season of AI where people are just learning to, how do I talk to it? How do I interface with this? I mean, we all went through that with Google, right? We all had to figure out, how do I craft a search query? But there was no like search query engineering that happened, right? It's
funny that great. It's great to hear that you're getting some traction with universities, but I actually see AI being a great boon for education because at the present moment it's saying, everybody's going to be replaced and the world's going to collapse. But I actually see one of the great areas, obviously MERS and pattern recognition is another factor, but in education, because haven't we found with the revolution of information over the past 25 years that we've had all this information out there. Yeah. But it hasn't filtered out in improving a lot of people's educational outcomes. Having all the information out there is great, but you need a teacher, you need somebody to be able, and for the elite, the 1%, they can buy individual tuition, they can buy the best tutors, they can buy the best one-to-one, but the rest of us, we can't. But that's one of the promises of AI, isn't it? To have a mentor, teacher that can customize learning to your individual style to increase your ability to learn. Yeah. Or am I totally lost it, Dustin?
No, I think you're ahead of the curve. I think that's something that is the most exciting part of AI, is having those more personalized and customized experience. So my wife is a teacher. She is a language arts teacher at a local middle school.
God bless her. God bless her. I couldn't do it. I just hit those kids. I just smack those kids all over the place. If they got lippy, with me, I just smack them one. I've lost half my audience already. But it's just true. That's why I'm not a teacher.
I'm with you. I worked with teenagers for a number of years before becoming an entrepreneur, and then my wife will come home with these stories of how these middle school boys are acting. I'm like, I would have slapped them. I would have thrown them across the room. I would have definitely gotten fired. So I don't know how. Hats off to all the teachers out there. You are so underappreciated. I was
a dreadful kid, actually. It was awful thinking back. That's so surprising, isn't it? But,
So I'm seeing firsthand how teachers are using it to help them with their workload, because teachers are always overworked. There's so much to get to, and sometimes they don't have time to come up with an entire lesson plan or quiz, and they can use AI to augment their expertise and come up with stuff faster and be more efficient. But on top of that, they can use AI to sort of come up with these customized approaches to individual needs. So many of her students have, I wouldn't say special needs, but they have, they require a higher degree of attention in their educational process. And so she's able to bounce ideas off of the AI inside of Magai and just get some different perspectives, get some different examples to use, or maybe some different illustrations that might work with that particular student's way of seeing the world.
I think especially when it comes to mathematics and more technical, because it's such, learning mathematics is a bit like learning music. If you haven't got that innate liking to it, it's such a mountain to get. Yeah, and a lot of people drop out. and we need to get people up to a certain standard. We don't need, if you haven't got that innate liking of mathematics.
Right.
I never learned calculus or anything like that because they thought I was an idiot. But I've always liked business math. I've always been able. I can add up pretty quick, if I say myself. But I think in America and in the UK and a few other countries, people drop out of the technical subjects because calculus and some of the basic. If you're going to do higher scientific, you've got to learn those basics, and a lot of people find it so difficult, don't they? Because they don't get that one-to-one tuition that the 1% gets. Because a lot of those struggle, but they just get more and more resources thrown at it to get to a certain standard. And I just see that as being a promise of AI, or am I deluded, Dustin?
No, I think you're spot on. Like I said, my wife is using it to help with the diversity in perspectives and learning styles. And I think there are all kinds of use cases that we're going to discover, just like we discovered with Google. We discovered at first it was just like, searching for Charlie bit my finger, right? We were just searching for funny stuff. And then we realized, I could search it for local news. I can search for local restaurants. I can search for phone numbers. I can actually put math problems into the Google search bar and it'll calculate it for me. So it's this discovery growth curve that we're encountering with AI, where the more we use it, the more we will realize we can use it for. And I think that's a pretty exciting and fun thing for me to experience, because I love learning and I love discovering new things. And so I think I think you're spot on. And
because I think it's really important, because if we don't get people up to a certain standard, they can't even be part of the discussion, can they? Because, if you listen to quantum, anybody talking about the universe or quantum mechanics or anything, if they tend to have the picture at using normal language. And the thing is, if you're dealing with any of these higher concepts around science and that, is that you can't use general language. You have to go into this. And as soon as you do that, you lose 95% of the audience straight away after about 5 minutes. So you're back to general terms that are great, but so there's a constant problem, isn't there, with a lot of these discussions, isn't there?
Yeah.
You never thought you could be discussing that on the podcast, did you?
I did not anticipate quantum mechanics. No, I didn't.
There we go. So let's go on. So what are some of the business tools, service you touched on? And I totally agreed with you. It's one of the great things about WordPress is because I totally agree with you. And it's one of the great things about your product that you were so kind to point out is, subscription tiredness. Love SaaS, but I think you've got to be realistic as well about it. But what are some of the products and services that you utilize on a daily basis that you just couldn't, that I have like Zoom, Grammarly, there's about half a dozen that I do subscribe, but everything else I utilize WordPress for. But what are some of the tools and services that you utilize?
So there are just a few that I literally could not live without. I am a Todoist user. Todoist is my productivity tool of choice. I love Todoist. I love their UI. I love the simplicity. They're just masters at crafting beautiful experiences. So that's my to-do list. That's my project management. I absolutely couldn't live without Slack because I hate email. And so all of my team communication happens through Slack.
Yeah, I've got a hate-love affair with Slack. I use it every day with my team because I hate email as well. But is it me, or is it, it's a dog's breath of the interface, isn't it?
It has its own set of challenges that are, and the more communication you have, sort of the less helpful it becomes. So thankfully, my company's at, it's just me and my virtual assistant, and I just hired 2 developers to help assist me with the building. So there's not a whole lot of communication, but I've, back when I had my first SaaS product, we had a team of, I think, 6 or 7. And if you're in there communicating daily, it becomes overwhelming. So I think Slack is ideal for small teams.
Can you imagine a nasty manager over you, pinning you through ding, and it says ding, ding, ding.
Yeah,
ding.
no, it can absolutely be worse than email in a lot of respects. But if for me, when our team is small, it is very helpful.
Anything else?
Notion. I'm a avid Notion user. If you've ever used Notion,
that's a religion. What's it? I never got into that. What's it about you Notion people? It's like a tech religion.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not by any means, I'm not a power user. I mostly use it for like internal documentation, stuff that we wouldn't share outside of our organization. Stuff like vision and roadmap, like internal roadmap, that sort of thing. Standard operating procedures, it just makes it easier to kind of share amongst the team. But I do geek out every now and then with like Zapier integrations. So I have a calendar where every time a new sale goes through, a new purchase goes through, I have a calendar that shows me how many sales per day. And so that's just kind of like a morale booster.
It's nothing like having a rough day and then a few sales come through.
Right.
And your day just improves straight away.
It changes your day. So I have that calendar up. Also, I ditched Google Analytics a long time ago for privacy reasons and just, for the fact that it was just so wieldy. There's just so much in Google Analytics. I switched over to a company called Fathom, use fathom.com, and I use their analytics product. And I'm a bit of a analytical sort of guy. So as I'm sitting here, I have an iPad set up to the left that always shows my stats and my analytics to make sure, okay, what's the traffic like? Is there a spike? Where are people at? And just kind of monitor things. And so in terms of my business, like I could not live without, having good analytics that are, helpful and not overwhelming. But that's about it. I mean, I try to keep my tool stack pretty slim if I can.
Yeah, I've only got about half a dozen business SaaS. Like I say, a lot of the other stuff. But I've always you got some WordPress people, and they're kind of religious as well. And you utilize a SaaS product, you're going to be you're disemboweled, but there just are some SaaS products that are just better than the WordPress alternatives. There isn't a good sales. The Fluent CRM is a fantastic, better in my opinion than Active Campaign, but there isn't a good sales CRM alternative. But I'm not a great fan of HubSpot, and Salesforce is great, but for the right type of business. But I utilize Zoho for that, even though it's got some rough edges. But I've been utilizing Zoho CRM as my digital hub for years, and it does the right job for me. So let's move on. So you touched upon the bitter experience of your previous SaaS. We've all got those arrows. You seem to have recovered. You seem quite chirpy. Obviously, the sales are coming through with the new product. That always helps, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
It makes me happier. So, what are some of the things you've learned? If you could go back, before I go to the TARDIS question, if you don't mind me asking, if you don't want to discuss it too much, because, it's a bit like a bad marriage, you get over the bitterness, you don't want to talk about it anymore, do you? What was did you, obviously you thought about, why the previous SaaS didn't work out. Are there one or two things, conclusions, Was it doomed from the beginning? Was it market fit? That was one of the factors, or was there a couple of little tips you could give to the audience?
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about it. I think it's as important, if not more important, to talk about our failures than it is to talk about our success.
It's depressing, though, isn't it?
It is. It is, but I think in talking about the failures and how you've gotten through it. So again, I was in a very dark place. I was really having a hard time mentally. My wife, family was going through some personal things. My wife's health was kind of up and down, and like it all kind of accumulated. It was like
it's always the same. You never. It's dealing with one problem, but you always get 6 problems, and they come out. They come out. You never even saw it coming, did you?
Yeah. So when I was in that place, hearing about all these success stories was just making me more depressed, because it was like, why can't I'm seeing everybody else succeed but me. But then I would get this glimmer of hope in seeing somebody talk about their hardships and how they made it through them, rather than just talking about the success. And it gave me hope. So I have no problem talking about my absolute failures, because hopefully it helps somebody out there who is in a place where they need to hear some hope. So for me, the 2 product ideas that I had, I'd been sitting on for years. And ultimately what it came down to was I had this great vision for one of the products in particular that was light years ahead of its time. But the development cost of bringing that full product to life would have been multiple 6 figures. I was talking about doing AI things with imagery before.
You just couldn't go down to San Francisco and find these VCs that are just waiting to give you 7 figures. Right? Just give you like a runway of 7 years. You mean you couldn't find that, Dustin?
No, I've been a bootstrapper. I've always been a bootstrapper. I've never taken venture capital, never taken on investors. I've always been kind of like let's grind it out and see if I can do this myself. So this idea that I had was AI before AI images was a thing, but it was going to cost so much money, and I didn't have those resources. So what you find yourself doing as a product creator is you whittle it down. What is the minimum viable product that we can build that will kind of get us some of the way there and maybe allow us to build further? So the idea was come up with the simplest form of this idea to get enough people to buy into the idea.
That's quite good. What was the matter with that? What was the matter with that?
Yeah, well, fund the development, right? But the problem was the money was short, and the minimum viable product just kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And when we finally whittled it down to a place where I could afford to have it built, because I would have to outsource the development. When we brought it to market, it took more money than we anticipated, and it took more time. And by the time we got the product out, the value that it gave was not enough to attract the audience. So we didn't have the product market fit, and people just didn't get the value of it. They didn't see the vision for it. And, you can't just sell people a vision and hope they will just pay you.
If only they would get the vision.
What's that?
If only they would get the vision.
Right, if they would get the vision. Some people did get the vision, and I had a very small group of people who believed in the vision, but not everybody can afford to bank on something that may come to fruition, right? Some people are like, well, I need to do things now, and if you don't have the thing that I need now, then I'm going to go use this other thing. It's very hard to dissuade people from Canva, because that was pretty much my competition, was Canva.
Oh dear. I'll get the picture now.
Yeah. So I was up against a lot, and we never found the product market fit, never found the user base to support further development for it. And so it just kind of fizzled out. And it was a hard lesson in, just finding what that product, instead of whittling the product down and saying, what's the least amount of product that I can build? Spend way more time talking to your customers and saying, what is the one problem that you need solved? Starting with the vision and working backwards can often be very cerebral and very self-focused. As an entrepreneur, we have this idea of what we want to build. And, you have the Steve Jobs mentality out there that I tend to lean towards, where it's like, if I ask people what they wanted, I wouldn't have built the revolutionary product that I built, or, the Henry Ford example. If I would have asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses.
Yeah, I think I just think it's a mixture of both, isn't it?
And it is. It's a nuanced mixture. Sometimes
if it was one or the other, it's like most things in business. That's why, I love chatting with people, but I don't read it. I listen to a few business book type books, but I don't because by the time there's too many variables, there's too much grey in this.
Yeah.
There's certain practices that I think are best practice,
Mm-hmm.
but there's so much grey in these business journeys that you can't take too much from it, can you?
Right. You have to become good at balancing, what you think the market wants and what the market is actually telling you they need. And you have to meet the needs before you exceed and teach them something that they didn't realize they needed. Right. So that was the hard lesson that I found. It's a balance of meeting their needs where they're at, but also
the other thing that a lot of people don't, what I've come to the conclusion, Dustin, which none of us like.
What's that? You
need a bit of luck.
A little bit. Yeah. Luck does help. Timing is very important. I think it all goes into all goes into the mixture of, how fast, how far you go.
Yeah. We don't like, obviously hard work, dedication, knowing what you're doing, having some idea what you're doing. But the one thing we don't like is you need a little bit of luck, and it might be you just didn't get the break, the luck. So it's simple. So let's go to my final question. You've been a very gracious guest. You dealt with me superbly, actually, Dustin. So I'm obviously from the UK, the suburbs of northeast London. I live in America for the past 15 years, but I'm very, very English still, I've been told. My close relatives in the UK reckon I've become Americanized, though, but I don't think so, do you? So I was, as a kid, a great fan of Doctor Who and the TARDIS, the time machine. So if you had your own TARDIS and you could go back at the beginning of your business career, is there one or two, you can consult yourself, what is there one or two tips, insights that you would love to be able to have told yourself?
I would probably go back to, I don't know, 2005, 2006-ish. Tell myself, buy all the Bitcoin. That's the first thing.
Buy the Tether. Go and buy Tether. That's a sensible thing to do, isn't it? It's amazing they've kept on going, those people, isn't it, Tether? It's still going, aren't they? Everybody else can act, but those drug dealers need a way to move their money, don't they?
I suspect that's true. And I think the other thing is...
That's just got me a letter. I'm going to be sued now again. You can see why I regularly get letters, can't you, Dustin?
Do you get them physical letters in the mail?
Yeah, I've had a few. They're actually, you can't see them, but I treat them as trophies, actually.
That's wonderful. But in terms of business advice, I guess I would say, fight
the
for
chocolate,
yourself
by the
more.
way, the chocolate factory sent me free.
Did they?
Because it doesn't stop me. I get worse, actually, about them. I called the founder Willy Wonka, and I called the company the Chocolate Factory. Sorry, I put you off, didn't I?
Yeah. No, sorry. I lost my train of thought. I was thinking about Willy Wonka and how I want to watch that movie again now. We actually have a board game. My kids and I love to play. It's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
He's like a lot, we all have a deep side of ourselves that we don't want people to see. But I sense, I might be totally wrong, but I sense you're what you project publicly is what you get privately. And I know this is horrendous. I'm very like this in person, right? But there's other people, their public persona is a total sham.
Yeah.
And Willy Wonka's the same. He makes out he's friendly, he's always smiling. and he isn't in private at all. So that's just life, isn't it? As you get older, you realise there's a lot of people that charm. People mix friendliness with shallow charm, and they're two very different commodities, aren't they?
Yeah. So being in the world of social media marketing for a lot of years, there are plenty of people who fit that bill. And with your Willy Wonka example, he's friendly and maybe a bit eccentric publicly, but as they might say in where you're from, behind the scenes, he's a nutter. He is an absolute nutter.
Yeah, there we go. Justin, we're a little bit over the hour. I'm respectful of your time. You need to get back to getting more sales, as we all do. It's been a pleasure discussing this with you. What's the best way to find out more about you, more about the company, and more, generally?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I loved this conversation. This is going to be the highlight of my day. I've had a lot of fun here. The best way to learn more about me and what I'm doing with Magai is just head over to magai.co, magai.co.
That's fantastic. We've got some fantastic guests coming up in the next couple of weeks, and then I'm having a couple of weeks off. Already got some great guests for January. I've really enjoyed this discussion with Justin. Hopefully you will come back sometime in the new year, later in the new year.
I would love to.
That's great. I think we've covered some interesting stuff. I've enjoyed the discussion. We'll see you soon, folks. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. We really do appreciate it. Why not visit the Mastermind Facebook group? And also, to keep up with the latest news, click wp-tonic.com/newsletter. We'll see you next time.